Hey guys, Alex here, aka the Mr. Bear, and I'm going to be doing some mod preps for CCC RPSGO 5 through the Ashes and Flames. I'll be running this game for one of my most beloved Patreons on January 21. It's currently January 18, and I need to get some work done. It's actually 1:30 a.m. right now. Having a bit of trouble sleeping, so I decided to get some work done, be a little bit more productive. I still have to design the maps here, so let's see how this goes. So what I like to do when I'm doing mod preps is I like to read the backstory first. So a relentless heat wave has left the flooded forest parched, and the Fire Seeker Task Force is scrambling to contain fires that have blazed an inexplicable life. Can you discover what burns at the heart of this mystery before all that is left are ashes? Interesting. So, just by this description alone, it seems that the flooded forest is a place that's always wet, and suddenly there's heat all over. So I can imagine the encounters are going to involve a lot of mystery about finding out why there's this heat wave going around. So part of me thinks that there's like a that this heat wave is magical in nature, and the adventurers are going to be tasked to investigate it. So let's see if my assumption is correct. So this is designed by Jonathan Tan, and one of my all-time favorite writers of all time, Jason Koh. He is the amazing writer behind the Never Dusk trilogy. So he did the editing for this, or the RPSG. Not sure if you call it a series or franchise or whatnot. The RPSG is always a solid. It's always has always been solid. I love Who's There, Who's Next, Fenari's Gambit, and the Way Stop. The Way Stop just ranking as one of my all-time favorite D1s. So I am excited to read this. The Way Stop did not disappoint. I'm actually excited to run it again. So I hope this one carries on. It is going to be written by Jonathan Tan, but if Jason Koh is confident enough to put his name on the title, I think that it'll do well. So let's take a look at what Jonathan Tan cooked up. So we have the adventure primer here. The adventure takes place in the flooded forest, a swampy swath of the Cormanthor, just south of Mulmaster, and along the edge of the River Liss. Mulmaster has weathered many threats, but none has been more ruinous than the Undoing. So the Undoing, you know what? I'm just gonna read the whole thing and then give comments afterwards because like I don't want to keep breaking it. Anyway, Mulmaster has weathered many threats, but none has been more ruinous than the Undoing. When the elemental cults detonated several devastation orbs in the center city of danger, laying waste to much of it. In the aftermath of this calamitous act, the city moved to purge the remnants of the cults. Those who did not flee were swiftly rounded up and imprisoned, and those who resisted capture were slain. Talvas Sordain, a cell leader from the cult of Eternal Flame, escaped Mulmaster with his followers. He led them into the flooded forest, where they hoped to bide their time until the day they could resume Imix's work. But it was not to be. The five factions pursued them deep into the swampy morass and finally cornered the cult leader and his flock at the edge of the choked estuary. In desperation, Talvas activated the devastation orb that he had smuggled out of Mulmaster. But little did he expect the elemental energies to mingle with the chaotic magics that sometimes permeated the Cormanthor. The resulting explosion tore open a rift to the elemental plane of fire that quickly incinerated the cult and their pursuers and sent a badly burned Talvas hurling through time and space. Recently, a scalding heat wave has parched the flooding forest, and the normally mist shrouded marshes and boggy woodlands have inexplicably started to burn. Unquenchable flames race across the treetops and spew from cracks in the earth, scorching the flora, displacing the wildlife, and upsetting the natural order. Though the flames have not yet spread beyond the flooded forest, the denizens of nearby Elven Tree, the Emerald Enclave, and the Harpers stationed there fear the worst. They have banded together to establish Fire Seeker's outpost at the very perimeter of the blaze, and have put out a call for brave adventurers willing to venture through the ashes and the flames to seek out the local druid that once watched over the stretch of the Cormanthor, and well, as to uncover the reason for this calamity. So, from this background, I can get a few things. So, first off, the undoing is something that is mentioned over in Who's There. Actually, in the entire Never Dust trilogy, this has been mentioned. The undoing is the undoing, the undoing, and the explosion of the devastation orbs is what broke two of the seven seals that kept Glorigrax at bay. So this is a nice callback, not really a callback, but it shows the continuity of the Never Dusk trilogy. Like there are still people that are being affected by what happened in the Never Dusk trilogy. So the Undoing is a is one of the major events in the Forgotten Realms lore. I haven't really dabbled too much into it, so admittedly I don't know much of the Undoing other than the fact that the elemental cults detonated the devastation orbs. So I hope to learn more about the Undoing. Next, we learn about we know that this area is linked to Mulmaster. So based on how the Waste Stop tapped onto the recent events in Mulmaster, I presume that this would take place after the Red War. And lastly, since there's clear references over to the elemental plane of fire, and where was this? He was cult leader of Eternal Flame. I think this would enhance my suspicions about how this mod is about breaking the magical energies. There are also stories about the druid that once watched over the forest. So I think this will be about finding the druid to break the magic. So let's take a look if my guesses are right. So, Fireseeker's Outpost. So, we know in the background that the Emerald Enclave and the Harpers are working together to create the Fireseeker's Outpost. So, the characters are tasked by Warden Lucant of the Fireseeker's Task Force to find the druid that once tended the forest. So, it is a search and rescue. Not exactly search and rescue, but kind of just find him. So, he probably disappeared or whatever. So, you immediately locate the druids. Oh, druids! So there's more than one. Okay. The characters must guard them as they enact a ritual to quench the flames. Ooh. So typically, this is an interesting kind of encounter. Like, there's a countdown. So my guess on the combat here, there's long. There's going to be waves of enemies that will all that and they basically have to protect a group of people. So usually by like round three or round five, that's the time the ritual will be complete. So I'm interested in what creatures we're going to face here, because uh, if they are gonna find the druids, they're probably hiding away somewhere. Maybe there are fire based creatures, maybe flame methods that are searching them, or fire elementals. Maybe salamanders if they're existing in D&D. So that's gonna be exciting. I did get a few messages here. Let me just check that out. Oh, it's from one of my students, Alexir. I'll close that for now. All right. So, uh, objective number two: flight or flight. The ritual has drawn the ire of the elementals. Ah, that's exciting. And the characters must hurry back to the outpost. Only there can they mount a defense. Okay, this is exciting. Is there a chase scene? Exciting. All right. In addition to the characters' individual backgrounds, okay, so normally there are these adventure hooks, which I don't really dabble too much into, but it's important lore wise. Same thing with the background. Actually, you can skip the background and go straight to the call to action, which is what I used to do a lot. But one thing I learned from the Never Dust trilogy is that the background really adds to the story of very well written mods. So the Never Dust trilogy, for example, it's super well written. Like it's a whole story on its own, And it's only when I check the background did I see that it's links to the Undoing or the backstory on how Fenaria became a member of the cult of Glorgrax. And when I read that, it really elevated Ooze there. And some people really enjoyed my rendition of it because I really put in that RP element. So that's definitely something I want to work on. I'm getting a bunch of messages. This might seem important. Do they see? Oh, it's the White Blue Mountain group. Okay, so let me just put that on silent because I'm starting to understand why streamer mode gives you an option to turn off all sounds. All right. Okay, so now the adventure hooks is on. Characters who are druids or rangers have a spiritual connection to the land might feel compelled to investigate strange forests. So this is typically something that a kind of adventure hook that I don't like using because like kind of generalizes like yeah druids and rangers are attuned to nature, but that's the very basic kind of storyline for druids and rangers. So uh, I'll add that as a note if somebody says that they're a druid or ranger, but I won't use that as their own adventure hook. Usually, my standard adventure hook is that they go over to the Adventurers League headquarters and just get on with the mission. Usually, what some DMs do is that they interview each person individually and then find a way to link them to the storyline, which I feel doesn't really add too much value to the story because like you have to link stories to each other. So like, what if somebody just came from the astral plane? And then they come back, they come into the D&D world, they come back to this setting, and suddenly some other shenanigans happens. It's kind of hard for the for the DM to link everything together, especially considering that some players come into the game and forget what their last mission was. So I'll note this, but I'm not going to. I'll let the characters decide why they're here or they feel compelled to do this. Faction assignment. Typically, tier ones don't really care about their factions too much, but the Emerald Enclave. I will note that the Emerald Enclave and the Harpers have personally asked them. That way, when they get to tier two, they might feel more compelled to work with the Enclave or the Harpers. So this is an interesting opportunity to reference the factions. Okay, hired help. Okay, this is the typical Adventurers League storyline where people hire you. Mulmaster with love. If anyone is from Mulmaster, which is very rare, people don't really like Mulmaster. Characters affiliated with the Cloaks or another division of Mulmaster's armed forces might have heard of or read reports about this. They could have been instructed by their superiors. I have no idea who these are, but alright. His aspirations are onto this. So this is Saztam. I learned about this in Fenarius Gambit. Saztam, may he live long and prosper, something like that. And then the response is his aspirations are unto the stars. This is called the Thayan Challenge. So following the events of the Red War, power in Mulmaster has shifted to the hands of the Red Wizards, loyal to Saztam, the Grand Patriarch of the Thay. So yes, this is something that really connects it to the storyline. Although the Red War is just so filled with lore, and it's what this is one of the references to the Red War. So um, I know in Ooze there, the Red War is not mentioned at all, and the Red War seems to have been triggered in Fenarius Gambit. So this is not supposed to take place in the same sequence as Ooze there. It's supposed to be you're supposed to go through the Nevergless trilogy, and then after that, that's it's like a brand new set of adventures to go through this. So, all right, because one thing about the new Jason Koh publications is that they are all one shots. Waste Up is in no way connected to this whatsoever. Because like Glistener is not referenced. The Shadowfell is not referenced. So they all definitely seem to be one shots. I think I read that somewhere as well. Like on the cover here, it says standalone one shot, a standalone 2 hour adventure. Yeah, got it. All right, so we have that. Okay, so it's a very straightforward adventure. Point A, point B, point C. No bonus objectives. All right. Only you can prevent forest fires. Convening at the outpost, the characters are warned by the Fire Seeker Task Force of the impending threat the flames pose, and tasked by their leader Lucant to seek out the local druids who might know more. The flooded forest. Situated on the eastern side of the river Sis, between Mulmaster and Jarlpon, this stretch of the Cormenther Forest is normally mired in swampy water all year round, and ridden by ancient trees that have long sunk the roots of the miasmatic bog. The sudden heat wave and resilient blaze has caused extensive damage to the area, drying out the swamp and baking the mud into cracked earth from which tendrils of noxious gas and fire spew. The trees are charred and ashen, yet they stay perpetually aflame, and the immolated carcasses of wildlife and other denizens that Oris dwelt in the flooded forest can be spied dotting the blackened ground where they fall. The air is choked with an acrid smoke and plummets of fire that can be seen from miles away. So typically, once you see these kinds of boxes here, you are supposed to read them out. But for me, I don't really like using a script too often, especially if it's for descriptions. So usually when I see DMs read out something from the box, they mispronounce a lot of words, like you saw me do earlier. There's a lot of practice that goes into pronouncing the words correctly or using the right diction or all that stuff. So what I do is that I try to understand it the best way I can and use it in my own words. So when I explain the flooded forest, I'll ask the players to make a history check and say like, okay, so you remember that the flooded forest is normally surrounded by swamp all year long, and normally it's very misty, it's very damp and very humid. But suddenly, because of this unquenchable heat wave, everything has gone dry. You notice that the bark on the tree is starting to sprout flames, and it's starting a lot of forest fires. Animals are displaced, plants are burning down to the ground, and you can see ash all over. You can tell that this is devastating to Mother Nature. So that's how I want to describe it. I don't, as much as possible, I don't like reading from the script. Like even in IRL games, actually for games where that I know by heart, I don't use a script at all. I'll use it for reference from time to time. Sometimes I'll just have the PDF on the side and not open it, just in case a player asks for something very specific. But most of the time, I just ad lib it because I like to understand the content before I run the mod. So I know some DMs can run a mod like with 1 hour prep time. That's not me because I run my mod when I run my mods. I want to make sure that I'm very well prepared. I've had moments where I ran a mod and I'm flipping through pages and I just don't like it. It's not my style. For me, I'm the overly prepared DM. Okay, so features. The Fire Seeker's Outpost will be a prominent feature. Actually, one thing that with AL mods in particular is that you kind of have to dart back and forth with the content. So let's take a look at the maps here. Okay, so the Fire Seeker's Outpost is not shown here. There's only two maps to make. Decanter of Endless Water, awesome. Anyway, sorry, I got sidetracked there. Alright, so these maps, thank God. You know, like I'm just so happy when the maps have the grids that are drawn properly. Some of them are so faded that when I put the template onto map creation, it's so hard to read. I actually just finished a video on that a while ago, but I'm not sure I'm going to post that. That was just me goofing off. Anyway, so fortifications of packed earth wrought by druidic magic extended from the ground, ringing several large buildings made from fire-resistant duskwood and stone, especially treated to weather the intense heat. So this Fire Seeker outpost is something that was completely new because what we know is that the Cormenther forest, no, flooded forest, sorry, is that the flooded forest is always damp. So this is something that this Fire Seeker's outpost was made to address the heat wave. So I can tell that this has been happening for quite some time. A water tower, several stories tall, stands in the center of the compound next to the watch post, from where the anxious fire seekers monitor the growing blaze with spyglasses. The rest of the compound includes a large barracks, several storage sheds, and a stable in which a half dozen relentless horses space. A 10-foot wide trough has been dug around the perimeter of the outpost, forming a loose divide. A flat stone of a flat slab of stone. See what I talked about mispronunciation. A flat slab of stone bridges the gap near the outpost gate. So there's a fire break around the area just to make sure that fire does not get to the fire seekers outpost. Okay, so you can tell that they really did some thought into this. Like they didn't just say the outpost is like a village or something. They really made sure to mention that it's fire resistant duskwood and stone. So when if I decide to design the fire seekers outpost, I have an idea of what kind of walls to use. Not the water tower. Okay, clearly that's just keep the compound less dry and for drinking water. Okay, that's pretty obvious. And the fire break, so it's like a 10-foot moat. Gotcha. Lighting, smells, and temperature. An orange cast fills the sky at all hours, and at night, the flames bathe everything for miles around the fire line. And air becomes hotter the closer a creature gets to the flooded forest, and a haze of smoke lingers in the air, choking and unpleasant. So I remember I watched this one. I played this one game before. I think it's called Fire something. It's on Steam. Oh my god! Basically, like you're a ranger, and you're not a D&D ranger. Like you're a forest ranger, and you have to go through. You only talk with one other person, and you have to find them. To be honest, I just watched the trailer, so it's been a while, but I'm getting that kind of image in my head when we're talking about Outposts because of the orange setting. So when I design the mod, I want to have that theme of hot, dry fire. So when I design the maps later on, I'm gonna put like an orange hue over it to show how deadly the fire is. Shortly after the characters arrive, they are met by Warden Lucan, a ranger from among the Harpers and the de facto leader of the outpost. Noted. Lucan shows the characters around the outpost, introducing them as members of the Fire Seeker Task Force, as well as measures they have in place to deal with the emergency. He uses the opportunity to gauge the attitude of the characters and their capabilities before talking about the actual task at hand. When he finally broaches the subject, he explains that two elderly druids, Gremdar Norun and Adriel Sage Whisper, watched over the flooded forest, but have been uncontactable since the fire started. He admits that he has little manpower to spare and hopes the characters can head to where the Druids' grove once stood and perhaps locate them to his steed. In his steed. Okay, so this is one of the things where I want to dart back and forth. So I want to go to the dramatis personae so I can understand the leader better. Alt tabbing. Okay, so I'm gonna look for Warden Lucan. So Warden Lucan, he's a tanned, muscular physique that towers several heads over his subordinates. Lucan cuts quite the imposing figure. He is dressed in a sleeveless blue leather jerkin and two belts crisscross his waist, each holding a belt pouch filled with tools, marching hand axes. I don't really like it when they give their descriptions like this, like what they're always wearing. I guess it's to give a better idea of what their character is, but personally, I don't really understand what the true relevance is. I guess just if you want to describe it, but usually when I try to describe what an NPC is wearing, nobody's gonna remember that. So I just go ahead and skip it. So Lucas takes his work at the outpost very seriously, knowing that without their intervention, the fires could rage out of control and threaten the nearby towns. At the same time, he is aware that this is dangerous work and has resolved to train the volunteers who have come to join the Fire Seeker Task Force as best as he can. He hopes to discover the cause of the strange phenomenon before more damage is done. So this is one of the reasons why I feel why it's so important to read the dramatis personae. It's because like you have to make the NPCs seem more lifelike, and each NPC has different goals and ambitions. So this one here, he is very devoted. He's very serious about his work. So some people when they roleplay a leader, they roleplay him as a bit of a douchebag, or they make him like a by the book leader. This dramatis personae tells us that he takes care of everyone that he has, and because he really wants to train them because he doesn't want them to die. So one of my favorite DMs, DM Aces, had runs his signature mod Bedlam at the Benefit, and there's this one player who had like such kind of like an annoying character who is always like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and steal everything," and normally that would piss off a lot of NPCs, but it just so happened that he was chatting with one NPC who was just so understanding, and that was listed in her dramatis personae. So it's an interesting way to RP the characters. So when I RP Warden Lucan, I'm going to have to make him seem very grim, buff, serious about his job, but also very caring about the people. So I'm gonna throw in lines like, I don't want to give you more than you bite. I don't want you biting off more than you can chew. This is going to be dangerous work, and I want to make sure that you are capable of handling the situation. Let me know if you need anything at all. You are a member of the Fire Seeker Outpost, and we are here to help you the best we can. So that's a line I can get from this description here. Point of pride. The bearish man wears. I like this man already. Bearish man. The bearish man wears the emblem of the Fire Seeker Task Force on his breast, a concession from the volunteers from the nearby towns, he claims, though it is evident from how he speaks of his men and their efforts that being part of the force is a point of pride. So he definitely cares about the people, but of course, he's more proud about how far his people have gone. So when I talk about the Fire Seeker Outpost, I'll have to describe like, we've worked hard and we've worked very hard on this outpost. All of my men are the most well trained they can be. They're very strong, very dedicated, and I truly believe in them. So it's kind of a way like he shows he cares, but at the same time you want to show that he is very proud of how far they've gone. So then we come into the Druids. Now I'm not gonna read this yet because I want to establish the scene first before understanding their personalities. So let's go back over to the Fire Seeker Outpost here. Okay, alright. The Fire Seeker Task Force has been stretched thin trying to contain the damage of the blaze, and have been unable to venture far into the flooded forest. Nonetheless, they are aware of the more common dangers the fires pose, and Lucan communicates these to the characters to the best of his ability. See part one of this information. Okay, so yeah, he's gonna give them as much information as he can. So this is a nice way to encourage characters to take notes. Personally, I just love it when I see players taking notes because it shows that they're invested in the story. The worst type of players, in my opinion, is like when it's like when you're describing something and then like you see them on their phones, or you're just like the most insulting thing for me as a DM is when like I'm working so hard to narrate everything and then the players are like sleepy and all. I'm like, that's kind of insulting. I mean, yeah, sometimes they just wake up, especially since it's like the Discord community. Some people just wake up and then get to their game. But come on, I mean, when you're like speaking and then people are sleepy, it really throws you off. Like some people like yawn like right into their mics, but now there's some people but especially like lately I've been doing IRL games in tabletop lounge. I see players like really taking notes so actively, and that's like, and like the best part is like when they're so invested in the story and they're wide eyed looking at you like this. I'm like, I miss that feeling. I miss IRL games. So if pressed about the true Druids, Lucan describes them as adept in their ways of nature, mentioning that he once saw Gremdar practicing the shape-shifting arts and an Andriel entreating face spirits to tend to her flowers. So these are as a as a druid main, I know that Gremdar is a moon druid, uh, probably a moon druid rather, because all druids can wild shape, and Andre has conjure fey spirits. Call to action: into the inferno. Lucan reminds the characters that the Fire Seeker Task Force can only stave off the fires for the short term, and that unless a more permanent solution is found, The situation remains dire. He is certain that if the characters can locate the true druids to enlist their help, it would lead to answers, and likely a speedy resolution to the crisis. The half elf bids the characters check their gear and report back to him when they are prepared to set forth. Before the characters leave, Lucan hands them a small leather pouch containing two acorns that are warm to the touch and pulse faintly with verdant energies. He explains that the acorns contain a potion of fire resistance, which may be helpful against the flames. So I'm excited to see what fire-based creatures we're gonna see here. Oh my god, this is I'm excited for this mod already. Oh my god. Let's just get right to it. I'm not even gonna ad lib there. Don't stand in the fire. The characters traverse the flooded forests and eventually arrive at the Druid Grove. There, they must safeguard the two Druids as they enact a ritual to close a fire rift that has formed. Locating and assisting the Druids is story objective A. Here's the area information. An oppressive heat engulfs the area. For every 10 minutes a living creature remains in the area, it must make a DC 10 Constitution saving throw or gain a level of exhaustion. A creature that has a resistance to fire is immune to the effect. If the characters take adequate precautions against the heat, such as dousing their clothes in water, wrapping wet scarves around their faces, and so on, consider letting them make this check with advantage. So I will uh I will be explaining how as they're walking how deadly the heat is. They're traversing the forest, and I will make take special note about like their armor and such. Actually, if you're wearing heavy armor, this should be made with disadvantage. Let's be honest. Um, but that's not in the mod. I could ad lib it in because it makes sense. Like, why is a wizard who's like wearing robes just as likely to get exhausted than a paladin wearing plate mail? But then again, chainmail, fine. So I think that would be a decent ad lib. I should recommend that to the writers. Because like that's what happened in Black Road. Like if you're wearing heavy metal, you have disadvantage. So oh yeah, one thing that in Black Road you can buy desert gear. So if you buy desert gear, you have advantage against heat, against saving throws, against con saves. I would I probably would do a similar mechanic here. Burning trees. The trees are blackened and charred and appear as if they would crumble at a touch, yet somehow they retain their shapes. Flames play sinisterly across the trunks and branches, and a character that willingly touches the flames or ends his turn adjacent to a burning tree must succeed on a DC 10 dexterity saving throw, taking 1d6 fire damage on a failed save or half at a success. Ash drifts down like powdered snow, coating everything in a fine dusting of gray, coupled with thick smoke in places. Visibility is poor and everything beyond 30 feet is likely obscured. Ah, this is nice. I like this. Charred corpses. Everywhere they go, the characters find traces of dead wildlife, and sometimes the remains are of less fortunate travelers who might have been caught in the firestorm. Their bodies have been carbonized, forever frozen in a grim tableau depicting their final painful moments. The soft crackle and pop of flames can be heard in the background, while the acrid smell of smoke is so thick it makes tracking by scent impossible. So, by the looks of here, the look development. As the characters wander through the flooded forest, they occasionally spy creatures composed of flame converting through the treetops or flitting through the air of smoky wings. I really feel it's a flame method. To locate the Druid Grove, the characters must succeed on a DC 10 survival check or navigator's tools check. Every failure increases the time the characters take by 10 minutes, subjecting them to the effects. Once they've accumulated 3 successes, they arrive to the heart of the flooded forest of the Druid Grove. Okay, so first to three. So usually what I do, I let them assign the people that they will be using to make wisdom checks. They have to make a DC 10, not too hard, but I let them choose. Like if they have like one druid and the party completely trusts the druid to lead, then why not, right? So what for group checks? Usually you have to ask an odd number of people to do checks, and at least and majority has to pass. So if it's one person, then yeah, they make a check on their own. If it's two people, both of them have to pass. If it's three people, two of them still have to pass. So typically, group checks there has to be an odd number of people. If it's even, there's no advantage. So that doesn't make sense for me. So for what I would do, what I'm gonna start doing rather, I'm gonna have if it's you can assign as many people as your checkers, and I'll get the average score. All right. Defense of the Ancients. Arriving to the grove, the characters discover the Druids, who have just made short work of some smoke and magma methods. So close. Smoke and magma, not flame methods. The first hint that these flames might be of an extraplanar cause. Druid Grove. So, as a Druid main, I know this is a spell, so it's like 20 feet or something. A lone maple tree stands in the center of a clearing, a perfectly pristine. A cooling, shimmering bubble emanates from the tree, quenching all flames within 30 feet. Stone cairns, each crackled to the height of 3 feet, are neatly arrayed the perimeter of the bubble. So this is a druid grove. If I'm not mistaken. Let me just double check if my detail is right. I'm not sure if druid grove gets you the same as a druid grove. Actually, my God, pirate bay. That's totally not a pirate here. Anyway, D&D Beyond. Let's open D&D Beyond. Okay. Druid Grove. Druid Grove. Is it 30 feet? 6 level. Druid Grove is 90-foot cube. So that's about a 30-foot radius, right? 612. Uh, 612. Uh, 12. So 120 feet. That's one. Oh my god. I'm not even gonna try. Yeah, it's a Druid Grove. It's not the Druid Grove spell. Okay. Gotcha. Okay. So, this is where they find Gremdar. In the guise of a water elemental, yep, he is a moon druid, towers protectively over Andriel as she kneels to inspect the pulsing, chaotic orb of flame floating several inches off the ground outside the druid grove. Okay, interesting. Grandar and Andriel have been scrambling to pinpoint the cause of the forest fire since the day it started, a task that has left them exhausted and drained. Though they have discovered that fire rifts have been spontaneously manifesting at the intersection of the ley lines, attempting to close each and every single one of them has taxed their magical reserves. They hope to borrow the power of the Druid Grove to send a jolt of cleansing energy through the ley lines, untangling the knotted skeins of magic, creating the fire rifts, and hopefully closing any rifts that still remain in the process. Okay, so it's coming from the elemental plane of fire. Okay, so this is where I can now read the dramatis personae of Gremdar. Gremdar is a survivor. He has lived through many disasters, including the Second Sundering. I have no idea what that is, but its reference here, it's probably going to be important. The scars on his body, including the burn on his face, attest to his numerous experiences. The elderly druid prefers simple garb and can be typically seen in a shapeless brown habit. It is far more likely to encounter him in the guise of a woodland creature or a force of nature, as he prefers these forms to his own. The appearance of the fire rift of the flooded forest surprises this aged keeper. He was compelled to investigate the phenomenon with his partner Andriel, fearing that these rifts were a portent of greater disaster to come. Grembar Dar is pedantic, overly cautious, and sometimes indecisive. His flaw delayed his response to the appearance of the fire rifts, causing the flames to spread beyond his control. He has exhausted himself and his magic in the past 10 days trying to make amends. Interesting. I can play that. Andriel Sage Whisper. With her long auburn hair streaked white and her serene demeanor, one might presume Andriel an ancient forest goddess. Her robes are an immaculate white, and she wears a sleeve of embroidered with budding flowers and dancing leaves over her left arm. The motif is replicated on the bangles she wears around her wrists and on the sandals that adorn her feet. Andrea felt the strangeness of the land's ley lines before the flooded forest erupted in flames, and like her partner Grandor, fears the worst. She suspects eternal magic and sabotage, and while she has divined the symptoms, she has yet to pinpoint the root cause. This frustrates her to no end. Action, not words. This elven druid believes that it is more important to act, even on instinct, than not act at all. Following her gut feels, she made preparations for a ritual that could halt fires at the source. So this is, I think, the way that the writer wanted this mod to be run is Gremdar and Andriel. They are married. They're partners rather, and Gremdar is the person who thinks first, acts second, and Andriel is someone who acts first without thinking. So these two are very different approaches, and that is something that is typical in couples in like when you're writing couples. Like you have this one, it's like a yin and yang feature. So depending on what happens, I'm going to have them like be disagreeing. I remember in the call to action, it's fight or flee. So I think Angriel and Gremdar both have different solutions, and it'll be the party's decision on who to follow. So let's get back to the story. Okay. The Druids have discovered that fire rifts often materialize when the elemental currents are the densest and are often precipitated by the appearance of a figure swathed in charred robes with a flaming skull for a face, like a baneful omen who vanishes just as quickly. Okay. Okay, interesting. They are confident. I'm going to actually highlight that. They are confident that unraveling the elemental energies would cause the rifts to slowly fade over time, but they know they cannot do it alone. The rifts spew forth flames and elemental creatures, and the characters must help if the ritual is to be completed. Once the characters acquiesce to help, let me ask how to pronounce this.
Acquiesce to help with the ritual. Grandar.
Okay. Anyway, to help with the ritual, Gramdar and Endriel begin the druidic sealing ritual in earnest. The fiery orb begins to thrum violently, and the flames in the vicinity begin coalescing into twisted, fiery beings: a fire snake, a magma method, and three magmin. Okay, let's this is my first time doing this, but like checking the encounters while doing mod prep. This is going to be interesting. I'm just like, I'm personally really just excited to see how this plays out. Let me just create a campaign on D&D Beyond. Through ashes and flames. Okay. Gotcha. through 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 ah through let me see. Oh my god. Through Yeah, it's supposed to be through ashes and flames. So it's be here already. So this is what I do when I'm making my encounters. I want everything categorized so that I can search it easily. Let me just click create encounter here. Make my life easier. Okay. So the APL here is APL 3, probably. Yeah, APL 3. So let's check that out. APL 3. So I'm gonna check this at 5 players at APL 3. Fire Snake. So one Fire Snake. Okay. First encounter. Fire Snake, Magma Methods, Magma Method, and Magmin. Okay, so fire-based creatures. Let's see what these characters are. So this, by the looks of it, I'm kind of underwhelmed at this. Although, because it seems like it's gonna be an easy battle for them. I have to find a way to run it optimally. Okay, so fire method. Creature that touches a snake or hits with a melee attack while 5 feet away from it takes 1d6 damage. So sadly, there is nothing too interesting about the fire method other than the fact that it has multi attack. Usually, when I have creatures, I really love the ones that are unique. Like for example, in White Plume Mountain, the characters the monsters I usually put in are like black puddings because they melt your armor, kelpies because they can easily drag you underneath. I recently just threw in instead of having a cheesy fire elemental or water elemental, I use fire and water elemental myrmidons so that they're more unique. They have like a recharge ability. These are the kinds of encounters I like. Fire method um, has does have heated bodies, so uh, nothing I can really do with that other than just deal damage back, a little bit of damage back. Hmm. Okay, magma method. Ooh, spellcasting. That's always fun. When it dies, it explodes in a burst of lava. Each creature within 5 feet of it must take must take a certain amount of damage. While it remains motionless, is indistinguishable from an ordinary mound of lava. Okay, so this is how it's going to be. This is how I'm going to describe it. It can cast heat metal. Yes, that's gonna be cool. I'm gonna make it so that I'm gonna design this mod so that I'm going to run this mod rather in a way that it makes heavy armor very tough to deal with because this it I think it would fit the setting more, like um, very clearly like it's about forest. There's a druids there. There's a heat wave. I really think that that wearing heavy armor should impose disadvantage. I think that this will add to that danger level. So, like, will they forfeit their high AC for better chances at saves? This heat metal will add to that problem. Uh huh. Any object to glow red hot. I've read the spell a few times. I just need to double check it because it's actually not commonly used outside. So I remember I tried using it in a tier 4 game. My party kind of laughed at me there. That was my very first tier 4 game. Anyway, any creature in physical contact with the object takes 2d8 fire damage when you cast the spell. Until the spell ends, use a manufactured metal object. One metal object or heavy suit of armor. Okay. Uh, huh. Any creature in physical contact with the object takes 2d8 fire damage when you cast the spell. Until the spell ends, you can use your bonus action each of your subsequent turns to cause this damage again. If a creature is holding or wearing the object and takes the damage from it, the creature must make a con save or saving throw or drop the object if it can. If it doesn't drop the object, it has disadvantage on attack rolls and ability checks until the start of your next turn. So this is a okay, I like this encounter. There's magma methods. I'm going to add them to my repertoire of creatures. That heat metal is that's gonna be fun. Actually, I think there should be more than just one. It has a fire breath. How is this only CR 1/2? Why is Fire Snake better? Ah, that makes no sense that the Fire Snake is stronger. I mean, like The damage output is okay. It has two attacks, but this has heat metal. It has a death burst, fire breath. Oh man, this should not be CR1. No, actually, I think CR1 half is fine. Fire Snake should not be CR1. Like, it's not even tanky. Look at that. CR AC 14. It's not gonna be too hard to hit. It has the same HP as a Magma Method. Okay, it has two attacks, but oh, okay, never mind. It has oh, never mind. I misread. It has two attacks. The bite deals piercing and fire. The tail deals bludgeoning and fire. So okay, I take it back. I take it back. Fire Snake can dish out a significant amount of damage. Magmin. Look at this. I like this encounter. So it has a death breath as well. Ignited illumination. Set itself ablaze or extinguish flames. Touch. If the target creature is a creature or flammable object, it ignites until the creature takes an action to douse the fire. This is what's going to focus. This Magmin is going to focus on casters because that action to douse the flame is going to really ruin their concentration checks. All right, I like this encounter. Ooh, and if they're a very strong party, they'll be using an Azure. Well, although the first group of players who are going to use this are going to be at the APL2, so I'm going to have to replace this Fire Snake with a Magma Method. Okay, I can work with that. Okay, so uh, oh my god, remove the Fire Snake and a Magma Method. Then I'm gonna have to remove the Fire Snake and a Magmin. Okay, all right, fine. Azure. Okay, what is an Azure? Heated body, heated weapons, illumination. Okay, so the Azure deals a little bit more damage. Oh my god, did I just? All right. So the Azure deals a bit more damage. It has a Warhammer. Uh, has a Warhammer, dealing an average of 11. Nothing too exciting. I'll probably just add another Magma Method rather than add an Azure. It's like the Azure does not seem. Oh, it has a tanky AC, so alright. I'll take that. I would remove the Fire Snake and just add an Azure. Because like I feel that the Magma Method and the Magmin are more thematic. Alright, so that's all done. The elementals have been drawn through the fire rift into the elemental plane and continue to do so until the ritual is complete, a process that takes 1 minute. Is this going to be a 10-round encounter? Treat the true druids as one single entry with an AC 15. Each time they are struck, the time taken to complete the ritual increases by 1 round. Okay, this is an interesting encounter. Excited by that. The characters must find a way to keep the enemy occupied and away from the druids, lest they disrupt the ritual and cause it to fail. Okay, two druids, one entity, AC 15. Gotcha. That's not gonna matter when there's a fire breath. Engaging the elementals in close quarters can be a daunting prospect, as those creatures are either wreathed in flame or have a tendency to explode when slain. Prepping from afar and ranged weapons or spells may be the character's best bet. Especially brave characters may attempt to lure some of the elementals away from the grove, buying the rest of their companions precious time. While doing so, they may catch a glimpse of more creatures of elemental fire moving toward the grove, and an odd figure swathed in charred robes with a flaming skull for a face. I am excited to see who this BBEG is. While the elementals are not inclined to communicate, characters versed in the arcane ways or that of nature may be able to convince Gremdar or Andriel to to help them with the ritual with a DC 10 persuasion check. Hmm. Okay, in ways that of the nature may be able to convince Gremdar and Andriel to help them with the ritual. Assisting with the ritual takes an action. Uh, okay. Assisting with the ritual takes an action and requires a DC 15 Arcana nature check. If a character succeeds, they hasten the completion of the ritual by 1 round. Each character can only attempt this check once. Okay. At normal, strong, or very strong party strength, a Magmin joined the fray at the beginning of the fifth round. This is a 10 round combat. I don't like round. I don't like those because like usually by round 7, people are already pretty bored. Anyway, Magmin. So I guess a Magmin will come until they slay everything. A ritual culminates, a verdant pulse erupts from the maple tree, and the fiery orb implodes, unleashing a thunderous shockwave that sends both druids stumbling back through the flooded forest. More shockwaves resound, and multiple columns of flame bridge the earth and sky before winking out, and the remaining rifts are forced simultaneously shut. There is a brief silence, and then a tumultuous crashing as a hulking, flaming monstrosity leads a charge into the grove, followed by a tide of magmin and other fiery creatures. Looking at the new arrivals grimly, Gremdar and Angriel urge the characters to flee the barrier in the grove. The barrier urge the characters to flee. The barrier in the grove can keep the elementals out only for so long if they hope to survive. They must hasten the Fire Seeker's outpost. Having located the Druids and assisted in completing the ritual, the characters complete story objective A. They must now survive the return to proceed to part 2. Okay, I'm excited to run this already. I think this is a pretty heavy combat tier 1. Not much RP opportunities. No, of course there's definitely RP because the NPCs are have legit personalities and legit functions. So I'll be excited to run that. But this one definitely deals more combat. Like the RP is nearly negligible at this point. Um, because like good RP will not benefit you in any way. So I'm going to go to part 2. But before that, I am gonna take a quick break. Just need to head to the restroom real quick. So I'm gonna put this on pause. All right, and we're back. So now I'm gonna head over to part 2. Fight or flight. Okay. There's a column here. Usually, okay. I don't want to get ahead of myself. Let me just go through this. With vengeful elements straying to their material plane, hot on their trail, the characters must hurry back to the Fire Seeker's outpost. The Druids take on the new forms of owls as they face through the now extinguished woods. Gremdar flits ahead to warn the Fire Seeker task force, while Andriel flies in front of the characters, guiding them so they don't veer off course in their headlong sprint. So, while the flames extinguished, and it is the sullen glow of embers that accompany the character's flight. The rains of ash continues to pour down while charred remnants crunch underfoot. In this scene, the characters must avoid hazards while making their way through the flooded forest and back to the Fire Seeker's outpost. To determine the hazards, roll a d10 5 times, re-rolling duplicates, and consult the table. I'm just going to choose 5. The characters slip and slide through the ash, and each character must succeed on a DC 10 dexterity saving throw. Ash smears the eyes of the characters that fall, impeding their vision and imposing disadvantage on their next dex save. So typically, what I do in chase scenes is that I throw in bear traps. So it's always a fun way. Bear traps are always fun. I'm gonna use those. So to make a DC 10 save. Otherwise, they have disadvantage on their next death save. Okay, I kind of like that one. But DC 10, it's not funny at all. An elemental lobs a flaming trunk at the characters. The trunk shatters on impact, shattering each characters with burning splinters. The characters must succeed on a DC 13 dex save, taking 1d6 fire damage on a failed save or half on a successful save. Smoke methods catch up to the characters. They take swipe at each of the characters' claw before being outpaced. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is that I'm going to have smoke methods chase the characters. Smoke methods. So it's going to be it's going to be an interesting encounter. Let me check the stats of smoke methods. Second encounter. Ooh, there's a summon variant. Okay, so they have Cinder Breath, exhales a 15-foot cone smoldering ash. Each creature in the area must succeed on a save throw or be blinded until the end of the method's next turn. It can cast Dancing Lights. Wow. Cool. Awesome. No wonder why they're only CR 1/4. So, number 4. A thunderous crack echoes overhead as a charged tree collapses in the character's path. They must succeed on a DC 10 athletics or dexterity acrobatics check to vault over the obstacle. If a character fails, they have disadvantage on the next athletics check as they are snared by the branches. I don't want to use that. That's kind of boring. Burning branches rain down at the characters. As the characters run through a corpse of trees, they must succeed on a DC 10 dex save, taking 1d6 fire damage or half that much on a successful save. Nearby branches snag at the characters' packs. The characters must succeed on a DC 10 strength save to pull their packs free. Each character who fails loses a single item of their choice. Interesting. The characters stumble through the burning bush and must succeed on a DC 10 saving throw or have their garments set alight, taking 1d4 damage. The burning garments dispose on ability on their next ability check. A ravine hinders the character's path, and the only way across is a fallen trunk. Clambering across the trunk requires a DC 10 athletics check or falls into the ravine. An elemental slams the ground nearby, causing a tremor that threatens to throw the characters off their feet. The characters must succeed on a DC 10 strength save. If they fail, they fall prone and have disadvantage on their next acrobatics check. If the characters blunder through the clearing filled with smoke, they must succeed or suffer a level of exhaustion. I might use this a lot. The characters eventually stumble past the edge of the flooded forest. Though their elemental pursuers are unrelenting, the fire break and the bastion walls of the Fire Seeker's outpost are just steps away are reinforcements. Flights of Magma Method swings overhead, even as the massive as the fire elementals, fire snakes, magmin, and worse appear at the edge of the forest. Standing at the walls of the Fire Seeker's outpost are Angriel, Gremnar, and Lucan, and a dozen members of the Fire Seeker's task force, each armed with a large potion vials affixed with a curious nozzle. At Lucia's command, they brace, and the vials that carry activate, spraying torrents of unrelenting water at the character's pursuers, causing them to recoil and buying the characters time to get across the fire break. Though many of the elementals are repelled, a large fire elemental in the form of a massive smoking behemoth manages to make it past the surging streams of water to the outpost gates. They attack the characters. Ooh, fire elemental at tier 1. Interesting. Interesting. Fire elemental at tier 1. Elemental. So can a party of tier 1s handle a fire elemental? It's gonna be tough. I like it. I'm probably not. Yeah, I like this. Oh my god, look at that HP. Fire elemental 100 to. Yeah, this is gonna be a fun encounter. I'm excited to run that. Party's gonna be at 2. They're strong. I think they can handle it. Okay. Hmm. Okay. The elementals have pursued the characters out of the flood forest and intend to turn them, as well as the two druids of Fire Seeker's outpost, into kindling. The Fire Seeker task force is uncowed by the elementals and stand at the ready to meet the elementals from the top of the bastion. They have armed themselves with decanters of endless water to do so. Lucan is aware of the common abilities and weaknesses of creatures of Eternal Flame, and will instruct the characters as they engage the elemental. If it looks like the characters have no easy way to handle the fire elemental, he will hand one of the decanters to them and instruct them of it in its use. Okay. Elemental might prove challenging without magical weapons or spells. Capitalizing on the water's spell might be the best way to turn the tide. So, if a character has like create or destroy water, that's gonna be something. Luring the fire elementals into the center of the outpost and dousing it with water from the water tower could extinguish its flames. The water tower holds several thousand gallons of water, enough to thoroughly soak the ground and destroy the elemental many times over. Breaking the large enough hole in the water tank requires a DC 23 athletics. Topping the water tank requires that the characters break at least two of the support struts. Each support strut has an AC 15, 22 hit points, and a damage threshold of 5. Okay. Characters may be able to convince members of the Fire Secret Task Force to lend them their decanters and help handle the Fire Elemental's threat with a persuasion check. Okay, that's one way to do it. The battle is over when the fire elemental is destroyed. The characters of the elemental fire are driven back and scattered to the flooded forest, much of which is now ash. While the flames have been quenched and the elemental forces repelled, the mystery of how the rifts were opened has only deepened. Andriel and Grimdar decide to join with the Fire Seeker Task Force to continue investigating the phenomenon. The characters are lauded for their bravery. Before they leave the outpost, Lucan hands them a decanter of endless water of their own, remarking that it might come in handy if they found themselves in the sights of a fire elemental again. The detail of this may be found in Appendix 2. Okay, I am interested. I'm interested in this mod. Um, it's very combat heavy. Focuses a lot less on. It really focuses a lot less on the. It focuses how do I put this? A lot less on RP. Not much RP here. It's actually very combat heavy for a tier one because there's a chase scene. There's two encounters, and they fight a fire elemental at tier one. That's always fun. That's what I. Uh, this is gonna be a fun tier one. I'm excited to run this and very excited to run it to my repertoire. So does this have a flavor? The flask is shaped like a potion vial with a large nozzle affixed to the stopper. The cross, axis, and elk emblem of the Fire Seekers Task Force are stamped on the vial. I love it when they have like when it has like when magic items come with flavor like this. Okay, and that is through the ashes and flames. I hope you enjoyed reading this. I hope you enjoyed going through this mod with me. I am excited to run it. I'm going to make a video soon about the map creation for this mod. This is really going. This is going to be a fun encounter. I am excited to run it. Actually, if I didn't have to sleep, I would have. I would go straight to map creation already. But sadly, you have to be up early later. This is actually pretty late for me now. But I really enjoyed doing this reading. I'm gonna do the rest of the RPSG reading soon because like I like this. I like these. I like these mods. Like these tier one mods aren't like the typical hack and slash. They have like real story and real depth. Um, again, special kudos to the writer Jason Koh. I love his work, and again, if he was confident enough to put his name on this mod, then it's then I give him like thumbs up there. He did a really great job. So gonna love Jonathan Tan. He's also an amazing writer. If this is his first work, then wow, he did great. Anyway, thanks everyone, and looking forward to seeing you next on the next Mr. Bear video. Bye.